advance warning that if you're going to rest players and stars, that consumers can make, educated choices about whether or not they want to participate as a consumer in that. They want to watch it, they want to buy tickets, etc., and also give TV networks enough advance notice that they can make informed decisions. That's a fair point. Where he is, I think, has made a misstep here, which is rare. Everyone, I think, is a big fan of Adam Silver as the commissioner of the NBA thus far. He's had an extraordinarily successful short run so far as commissioner, replacing David Stern. Where he oversteps is when he talks about owners getting involved in the decision whether or not to rest players. Because what he is admitting here in black and white explicitly is that competition on the court should take a backseat to business interests. That's fine in terms of long-term planning. But in terms of day-to-day decisions, he's admitting that business interests should be put ahead of long-term competitive interests in terms of winning a championship that season. Because after all, a coach or a player may think, no, for various reasons, we've gone over them, maybe to rest, maybe not to tip your hand and show the other team too much of what you want to do. Maybe it's purely psychological. You believe you're coming off the second of back-to-back on the road, and you think that the other team will get confidence if they beat you, and so they'll beat you, but without your star play. I mean, there are a million different reasons a coach or a player might sit. And what Adam Silver is saying is don't make that an on-the-field decision, a competitive decision made by a coach or a player. Make that a business decision made by the owner. He's here openly advocating for business interests to directly affect competitive interests once the season has started, right in midstream when teams are angling for championships. I think that is an overstep, an overreach. Otherwise, I agree with the point. It's a fair one. You got to give it enough advance warning so consumers and TV interests can make educated choices.
Personally speaking, I think you're all over the place with this, to be quite honest with you, because you're not saying anything that's wrong, but you're arguing both sides. He's the commissioner.
Arguing one side.
And certainly, I think you're arguing both, because even though he's the commissioner and you are right about him overstepping, we have to delve a little bit deep as to why that is. The commissioner's job is to hold purview and dominion over what's in the best interest of the game. And what he is saying is that the public is speaking loud and clearly as to what they don't like about our product. Anything that compromises our product is not in the best interest of the game, and it's something that we need to take heed to. The commissioner had to speak, Max, because LeBron James, the best player in the world, basically looked folks in the face, snubbed his nose at the viewing public and said, hey, there's really nothing that the NBA can do about it. Like, so be it. It was shockingly insensitive coming out of his mouth. And this is a guy that's class personified. I'm not talking about him as a person. I'm certainly not talking about his greatness as a player. I'm talking about this one statement that just reeked of insensitivity and a heightened level of arrogance that we all should speak about. But the commissioner took it upon himself to retort what LeBron James had to say, because that was in the best interest of the game. We understand that this is a management and broadcaster issue. We understand that whether it's ESPN, ABC, or TNT, that they have to conduct some kind of coordinated effort with the teams themselves, with the league, in order to get scheduling down so guys are not being taxed, which is what Doc Rivers alluded to. You got a nationally televised game on a Saturday night. We shouldn't have to play Friday. We shouldn't have to play Sunday. They should find a way to work this out. Therefore, folks won't be inclined to miss these games. We understand that's not the commissioner's responsibility. It's management's responsibility. But management has the commissioner in place to oversee what's in the best interest of the game. And when the greatest player in the world, who happens to be a reigning defending NBA champion, literally on the heels of feeling the shrapnel of verbiage aimed in his direction and that of others because of games being missed while he's on the sideline eating cookies and laughing it up, but fans paid to come and see him play. And your response is, hey, the league can't really do anything about it. No. That's a problem.
No,
and the commissioner has to say something about it.
if he would have said, I'm on one side of this issue. If the commissioner would have said, hey, in the offseason, we need to address this. We need to figure out how to legislate something in a way where this doesn't continue to happen because we're going to miss some TV money, we're going to tick off the fans, etc. Or had he said, you know what, we need an immediate culture change in the NBA. Maybe we've overemphasized the importance of winning championships, which is what they've done since time immemorial in the NBA. Maybe we've overemphasized that and we've underemphasized other very important competitive aspects of the league. That's all fine. The overstep occurs when he admits explicitly that the owners, who have nothing to do with strategy in terms of players and how to win a championship, how to rest players, etc., when to do it, the psychological game that happens within the game, that's not the owner's responsibility. When he suggests that the owners, because of business interests, should influence the coaches and the players' competitive decisions, that's an overreach. That is, I think, inappropriate. And by the way, if we're concerned about the integrity of the game, players sitting go less to the integrity of the game than owners interfering in strategic decisions by coaches and players halfway through a season.
Whoa. That might be the most ignorant thing that ever came out your mouth. Let me get this straight. I own the New York Knicks.
Right.
And as the owner, I don't get to sit up there and say, Jeff Hornacek, excuse me, I don't like what the hell you did here. Hell no, you're not going to do that again. Yes, you do need to pay this player. You trying to tell me it's beyond the pale to imagine that an owner from time to time might make that decision, or an owner might sit up there and say, excuse me, I'm cutting $22 million a year for Carmelo Anthony. I want to see him in the game. I don't want him riding the bench in the fourth quarter. Why the hell did you have me pay him this money for? You can't. You trying to tell me it's beyond the pale for an owner to sit there and say something like that?
No, but it's beyond the pale for the commissioner to suggest that the owner do that for business interests. For example, in the NFL.
I'm going somewhere. That was just my one point about it. What I'm saying is, if the owner can do that with his individual team, then it's not beyond the pale for the commissioner who oversees the league to implore the owners to make sure you hold dudes accountable in terms of them showing up to work.
It's
not beyond the pale.
Let me give you an analogous situation in the NFL. Tyrod Taylor wasn't played, and we know he wasn't played because Rex Ryan at the time wanted to make the playoffs, and he believed Tyrod Taylor gave him the best chance of doing that. Ownership and general management wanted him sat because they didn't want the guaranteed money to kick in based on how much he played, right? Now, it was hard to get people on the record, right, admitting that that's the reason. Like, ownership and the general management of the Buffalo Bills wasn't going to come out and say, yes, we do not want to play him because we don't want to have to pay him the money, because that would have scandalized them, even though it was pretty clearly true. I mean, at least it looked that way. Find an employee of the team to come out there and just admit that that's the reason it was happening. Well, why would they be hesitant to do so? Because to admit that would be to admit that business interests were coming ahead of competitive interests. And no one wants to admit that because it goes to the integrity of competition. So, yes, this is a gray area because one may also argue that playing all your best players all the time helps your chances, I suppose. Though if the coaches and the players don't believe that, then to insist that they do it for business interests is scandalous, actually. It's actually scandalous.
It's not scandalous, but we learned a long time ago you could give a damn about the fans. Everything is about the finals or whatever. You don't care about the fans.
I'm a man of the people.
You don't care about the fans.
I don't know.
You don't care about the fans.
Max.
You'd never get elected.
Steve,
You'd never get elected.
I don't know if you love the kids.